Welcome to Greenland. Welcome to Nuuk. It's a beautiful little airport, but I will pay a king's ransom to anyone who can explain to me why this place is called Greenland. There is not a single solitary bit of green anywhere within sight. Now, I don't know why I'm surprised. It's the winter time, and we are in the north, and there's absolutely no reason for there to be anything green, but I don't know. Call me a cockeyed optimist, but I was hoping for a patch of something, even green paint somewhere. But that in the background is basically what you can see for hundreds of miles around us, and it's really beautiful. I will say that. And as you can see in the hangar there is the Mighty Dash's baby brother, the Baby Dash. I think that's a Dash 8 300 right there, which Air Greenland flies. And this is a very small airstrip. This is 4,000 feet long, and it's carved, as you can see, to a mountainside. And nonetheless, it's a busy place. It's the only way in and out for several hundred miles. And we are going to go from this little patch of desolation across Greenland and over the water and to Iceland, to Keflavik, which is another sort of forbidding but beautiful place. And let me show you the route briefly. We are going to be, unlike last time, taking airways. We're not going to have to dead reckon. But it is going to be a pretty barren trip. There ain't really no place to go until we get to the other coast. And if we have to, we will stop right here at Kalusuk, which is another small and forbidding sort of place. Let's just see what it looks like here. Another 4,000 foot strip. But we're going to go all the way to Keflavik here, where the weather is strangely not bad. And this is another leg in our round the world journey. And it is it's a pretty hostile one, but we've got enough fuel, and the Mighty Dash can take it, so we can get going here. Quickly do some safety checks here. Test our caution panel and our warnings. I've already checked our fire system, and it all checks out. We will take a look, see if our gear pins are stowed, and they are. Already programmed in our route. Put in our V-speeds. And done an auto feather check. No pushback here. We're going to go straight ahead, and we're going to have to start up and take a minute to get defogged here. So quickly turn off our APU bleeds, and we'll get started. See if the old engine cranks here in the cold weather, and so far it does. looking good. Wondering why it is so quiet here on the flight deck. Okay, that's a good start. And again, it is too quiet here. But we'll get started, and if we have to, we'll reload the aircraft here. Not sure why. Getting no sound here. We'll bring up the props to full. Number 2. Not sure why the door didn't shut, but there we go. Still nothing. Could blame the head cold I've been having, except I don't think that's it. In the meantime, let's just reload our aircraft. Let's make sure we've got a good start on both engines. We do. There we go, I think. Alright, well, there's always that. Looks like we still got our flight plan, but we'll have to restart. Try it again. Bleeds are on min. Turn off our bleeds here. Turn our exterior lights to red. Try it one more time. Okay, I hear sounds. Got a good looking start here. Reset our panels. And that's a good start on 2. Switch to 1 in 1 second. Ah, the quirks of flight simulation. Okay, and that is indeed a good start. Let it stabilize for a minute or two before we bring up the props. Don't know why this is popping up all the time, but maybe it's trying to tell me to fly more shared cockpit flights. Okay, starting number 1. Up we go. Transponder is on standby. Set our trim right now. Set our radar on standby. And we'll bring up number 2. There we go. Spoilers go to taxi. Ah, the magnificent sound of the mighty dash. And we got a good start on one, so we'll advance the condition levers there. Give ourselves takeoff flaps, which are going to be 15. No, 10 doesn't. Because there ain't nobody here but us church mice, we're going to assume we've been cleared up to our cruising altitude of 250. There we go. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. Just turn my bleeds on max for a few minutes to clear the windows. APU can come off. Taxi lights can come on. All of our heats can come on. God knows. The more heat, the better. Emergency lights disarmed is what the caution panel says. Not sure why. Okay, we arm our emergency lights. Don't know how that got popped off. Good to check. Check our controls. And for that, we'll take off our gust lock. Full left, full right. Back and forward. Rudder left, rudder right. Done and done. Okay. Check our hydraulics. Up comes number 3. And down comes number 3. On comes our pumps and standbys. That gets closed. We'll turn our display here to map. Transponders on standby. Fuel is loaded. Gust lock stays off at this point. Trims are set. AFCS is set. So we're going to taxi out to runway 5 and we're going to get out of here. Before we do anything more, we're going to turn on our nose wheel steering so that we can actually go where we want to go. If I'm not mistaken, we have to back taxi up this runway, so clear on the left and right. This is some forbidding territory. Nice looking airport though. And we are going to definitely have trouble turning here. And this is also definitely an M-top takeoff. With some serious terrain in front of us. So we're going to very briefly climb on runway heading, and then very quickly turn to the east. Matter of fact, we're going to make it a flap 15 takeoff. And I've lost my V-speed, so we'll set them again. There we are. Bring our bleeds to min. Turn our bus tie off. Turn our landing lights on. Taxi lights off. Anti-collision comes to white. We can take off with the bleeds on. That is perfectly fine. Okay. Caution panel clear. Pumps auto feather on. Briefing complete. Navigation set. AFCS set. Gust lock off. Condition levers max. Flaps set. Trim set. Alright, get ready. Let the fun begin. Okay, M-top. Takeoff power set. And look at those approach lights ahead of us. 80 knots. And those are the least of our worries. V1 rotate. Positive rate. Gear up. Climb power set. Flaps coming up. Nose is down ever so slightly to accelerate. And now we will take care of the terrain issues. I'm going to keep our climb pretty steep indeed. So we'll probably set an IAS of 170. That should do us. At least it's not too bumpy. And we are climbing nicely. So while we're at it, we'll take care of our after takeoff checklist here. At least a minimal version of it. Looking really good. And I'm going to turn on the autopilot here so we can do a little sightseeing, because this is some spectacular stuff. Get our radar cooking here. These are fjords, and boy are they fjords. Wow. Okay, above 10. Check our pressurization. It is cool. Lately I've been taking off and climbing with the bleeds off, and that can cause some real problems. No icing at the moment. Trim ourselves out a little bit. As we head across the bulk of Greenland towards Iceland, we're getting ice, so stands to reason. On come the boots, on come the intake heaters. All the other heats are always on the dash, no matter what you do. Again, all our altitudes are fine. That is good. Flying nicely. Let's see. We've got a crap ton of fuel on board, so that's that is 11,100. I should have set this before I took off, but works just the same. Giving ourselves plenty of fuel for an alternate. And for holding. And a little secret extra. There we go. We've got 70 passengers on board. See why our fuel is telling us we don't have enough. Seems like we should have plenty. And we've got 3 hours and some endurance, and we've got less than a 3-hour flight. Got a 2-hour and 21-minute flight. So we've got plenty of fuel. Let's see what I did wrong. Okay, menu, arrive. And now it is okay. Not sure why it wasn't sure how much fuel we had on board. But it seems to have sorted itself out. So we have plenty of fuel, which is correct. Although that's how much we got going to Kogag. Alright. Lodno, Devnu, Sosset, Gimli. Let's just do this. BIKF. For Keflavik, yep. And then do a new arrival. Okay, that's all cool. And it is still only giving us performance to COCAG. Alright, I don't know why we should be mucking around with this, but let us set ourselves in heading mode briefly. And pull our props back. And dick around with our flight plan. And re-enter our flight plan here, COGAG. The nice thing about flying these long distances is you've got lots of time to figure stuff out. Okay, so direct to COGAG, done. Back into nav mode. Boom. So after COGAG, we'll pick up our airway. And we'll take it to Lodno. And we'll go from there to Devnu. D, E, V, N, U. And we'll get on our next airway after that. And we'll take that to Gimli. Do we take it to Sasset or Gimli? Let's see. Sasset. Although we can take it all the way to Gimli, why not? Okay. And then arrive, runway 11. Runway 11 to those who are so inclined. Alright, there we are. Alright, now that should give us, and it doesn't. Betcha I know what's going on. Betcha it doesn't know how to deal with this. Now, betcha it knows. Well, beats the hell out of me. I am defeated. So what we'll do is do what we know how to do, which is trim up our rudder. And it does this sometimes. See, it only shows us going to COGAG, but if we hit direct to again and do exactly the same thing, it'll fill out the rest of our flight plan. See? And now we have the rest of our flight plan. There's Lodno. Alright. Tell me you know the answer to that one. And there we go. And now we've got a flight plan all the way to Keflavik. Go figure. And we're back, just coming up on top of descent, the late day sun on the Mighty Dash. And I have to confess, it took me a minute before I realized why it always looks like the late day sun here. And that is because I am stupid. we are obviously so far north that there's very little daylight. It's almost always the late day sun, the early morning sun. So left Greenland a little before noon, and now it's a little afternoon, and it's evening already. So the days are very, very, very short up here, and I was too much of a bonehead to realize it. So shame on me. Anyway, we are coming up on TOD. We are going to be flying this approach, the RNAV approach, to runway 2. MDA is 561, if I'm not mistaken. Enter that right here. Okay. And already told the passengers to take a seat. I was going to turn off the anti-ice at the moment because we went through a patch of it a moment ago and we're done with it now, but I'm sure we'll be revisiting it very shortly. Here is our VNAV path, and let me just check our approach here. Runway 2, RNAV Z, yes. And let's see. Yes, 171 is touchdown zone elevation. So we'll put that in our pipe and smoke it. It's a standard 3 degree. And it is 34 meters, and that's close enough for government work. So we're good on the HUD in case we choose to use it. Not sure if we will. Our altimeter, last time I checked, was 2959, but check again. Looks like it hasn't changed. 2959 with a slight wind, just a little bit off our right nose. Other than that, we are good to go down. Been an otherwise uneventful flight. The sky has looked more or less just like this. We've been running into occasional high clouds full of ice, and we've been dealing with it along the way. We've got a crap ton of fuel. We might even have enough fuel to continue on if we have to, but there are several airfields we can use in Iceland if we need to, but Keflavik is preferred because that's where our airline is, that's where the facilities are, that's where customs are. Six minutes from the TOD, right there. This is an LNAV VNAV approach, so we've got the corresponding minima for that, which is the minima, as it were. Long runway, we'll make it a flaps 15 arrival, pretty standard. And unlike at Nook, we'll try to stay on speed. We let that get out a little bit, out of hand on that short runway, and almost paid for it with some bent metal. Certainly an ugly arrival. We'll be a little bit more graceful about this one. Usually, the Mighty Dash and I rise to the occasion on a challenging approach. This time it will not be a challenging approach, but be a long runway, and of course, inevitably that means we'll embarrass ourselves. I want to thank a viewer whose name escapes me right at the moment for the tip on wind correction, which I will find very, very handy as we move along here and fly around in places with a paucity of nav aids. Eldest, by the way, is the entry point onto our star, which is right here, and forgive me, I cannot read Lido charts to save my life yet, but I will. It is this arrival right here, which will take us Eldest, and then Rendu, which is the IAF for this arrival, as you see right here. Alright, just waiting for VNAV to rear its head. We know how painful that can be. Our altitude we're shooting for is 3,500 or above. Not too much above 3,500. Otherwise, we'd be okay right where we are. And a little bit of a crosswind at altitude here. Let's take a quick look. 3 minutes away. Looking good. Just chugging along more or less. Okay. And we are good to go. Just check my altitude constraints along the way. 3,000 at Piver. Probably Pever. And we'll keep our eye out for icing. And with any luck, we will land in this really beautiful twilight. I hope so. I don't want to land in sheer darkness because it's too pretty. Nothing on the radar. Roll off the power just a little bit there. Let's tilt our radar down very slightly. See if there's anything at all to see. I would tend to doubt it, but not sure whether that is storminess or ground clutter. But in any case, doesn't look too drastic. We'll see. Hope everyone's having a good New Year weekend, or even a New Year's weekend. One day I'll master the English language. I think that's my New Year's resolution, is to talk real purdy. You see down here, this displays our segment of flight, as it were. So we're in the terminal segment here. And it will switch over to approach when the approach gets activated. And we should start coming down right about now. As we do, I'm going to scale down our display a little bit. As the magic needle starts to sink slowly in the east. We're just going to let the speed build up a bit. Understanding that as the air gets denser, our barber pole is going to creep downward. And it's a good enough reminder to check our airfield elevation. So 171 plus 500. Let's give or take right there. Do a little sightseeing while we can. We're still out over water. Check for ice flows. But the Mighty Dash has a nose for land, so she likes two things. She likes the sky and she likes the earth. The water, she's not so crazy about it. So again, Rendu is our IAF, and we can come down 5,000, 15,000 feet. That will get us down to 6,000. We need to be at 3,500 or above. We'll see if it steepens our descent. I think it will, to hit that constraint. Meantime, we're making good time here. 2959. Still. Wind's kicked up a knot. Alright, so spin this down to 2959, which will give us a little help on the altitude. And we're getting some icing. Not a surprise. So we'll take the appropriate measures by turning on the boots and opening up the engine intake doors. Also check and do a little visual inspection, see what kind of, aha, a lot of ice. See that? There be ice, and a decent amount of it too. There was some on the leading edges and it just disappeared, but there's still a little bit right here on the spinners where they're not going to hurt anything. We're going to wait to arm the approach. We'll cross-check our VNAV in a second. And now, as you can see, coming down at a reasonable rate, we can come down 9,000, and we are now at 14, so we will certainly make our 5,500. And it's starting to shallow us out just a little bit in recognition of that. So we're good there. The VNAV system is not unbelievably sophisticated, but it mostly works. Works pretty nicely. And it allows us a little more pilot involvement than standard LNAV, VNAV, set it and forget it kind of mode, which has enormous flexibility and power. And if you know what it's doing behind the scenes, it is remarkably confidence-inspiring. The only drawback comes when you don't really know what it's doing in, say, a 777. Once you do, it's a bonus. Just keep the speed from creeping up too much here. Looking good so far. So there's our approach. It's a pretty simple turn to final here. When we turn to final, I'll arm the approach. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, it's a whole lot of nothing out there. So much nicer flying over the Rockies or the mountains in Alaska, in Orbix country, but you know, this has its own majesty. And we're coming up on 15 miles, and we're also coming up on 3,500 to go. Just easing back the power again, just to keep us below barber pole. This is not one of those speeds where if you go a couple of knots above it, your airplane is going to break apart. So don't worry too much if you creep into the red right there. Certainly don't do anything drastic. Try not to do anything drastic whenever possible. There's almost nothing that goes wrong that needs split-second attention. Even if you get a stick shaker, as long as you're not at an unbelievably critical altitude, all it requires is a gentle push on the stick. Does not require you to firewall the throttles, which can upset the aircraft. It certainly doesn't require you to yank on the stick. So, and intervening with the autopilot, if the autopilot's doing something you don't like, as long as you don't look up and you're in the world's strangest attitude, it doesn't require anything drastic, nor does an engine failure require split-second attention unless you're at a very critical phase of flight, like right after V1 and climb out. And even in that case, if you're climbing at the right speed, you're climbing at that certain speed so that if you do lose an engine, you're safe. The last thing you want to do is shut down the wrong engine if you've got a fire. So if you're working with the crew, identify the engine first without asking to confirm in a way that turns into a leading question. And sit on your hands for a second or two is almost always the right advice. Almost. So we'll just bring the power back again as we see Iceland coming up. Thank goodness. And we'll get our lights and our pumps and everything else going. Bleeds to min. Standbys and auxes on. And we're going to spin this down to our minimum. And we're going to arm the approach. And start to slow. We'll slow ourselves to 180. And put out our first notch of flaps in a second. Okay. Just coming down to 180 here. As soon as we turn, I'm going to hit the approach button, even though I'm not sure whether that's entirely necessary. It seems to activate fine on its own, but been watching those airline to sim videos, and that's how they do it, so that's what we'll do. And I'm going to break the rules here and put our bleeds back to normal because our windshield is fogging up. And we'll get ready to drop the gear. And wait for the scenery to load. And it should start us down any second now. There we go. Out comes the gear. Down comes flaps 10. Off comes a little bit of power. Bring us down to about 15% torque. Actually, I'm going to bring ourselves down a bit more to lose some speed so I can put in flaps 15. Let's not let the speed get away from ourselves again. Okay, flaps 15 can come in and that will slow us considerably. And I'm just going to let the speed bleed for a second. Oops. And runway is in sight, but we're going to fly this approach here. Let some more speed come off. Before we bring the power back in. And it's a good thing we're still flying the approach because we've lost the runway. But I want to get the speed just right this time. See how steady we're keeping it? Okay. 1,000 above our decision height. And it says we're low, the pappies do. And the approach says we're a little bit high. I think I'm inclined to go with the pappies. So I'll throw ourselves into standby. And I'm just maintaining our speed, our pitch, our runway picture. Notice how the speed is not really wavering. Got a little bit of a crab going. I'm going to bring in a little more power because I think we're slightly, it's hard to say whether we're especially low or high because those are not pappies. at least those pappies are not displaying properly. So we'll just maintain this runway picture. We'll bring the crab out a little bit.
100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
And there we are. A little bit of texture bleeding through there on the runway. But welcome to Keflavik. Where the local time is dark. Ah, it's a shame about these textures. Well, one way to help that is to do this. And bring on the gust lock and turn off the pumps. And turn off the heats. And we'll make our way to the terminal. And as we do, just thank everybody for watching. And next stop is Scotland. So until then, have a good weekend and see you next time.